That's the whole deal, baby. And
Beautiful.
I love it because it's so simple.
Welcome to the Active Marketer Podcast, where we talk about how to design, automate, and scale your business to the next level using sales and marketing automation. You can find out all the tips, tactics, and techniques you need to get more customers and sell more stuff over at theactivemarketer.com. Now, here's your host, Barry Moore.
Welcome to episode 19 of the Active Marketer Podcast. I'm your host, Barry Moore. Today we're going to have a chat with Ben Krueger. We're getting Ben Krueger back. He did a popular episode on podcasting back in episode number 12. And just like some of our other guests, we've got him back to share one of his favorite sequences. So if you're struggling, think about what you can put into practice in your business with marketing automation. Ben Krueger's here to share his secret sauce and his best performing automation or best performing follow-up sequence in his business just for you guys. But before we get to that, we're going to do a bit of a shameless social proof segment. I've been missing out on this for a little while, and I don't mean to leave anybody out, so I want to read a couple of 5-star reviews that have just come in. And this one is in the Australian iTunes store. It's from Ace Designs, and it says, "Great interviews, 5 stars. There's a good mix of story for inspiration and tactics that you can implement for your business. Keep up the great work, and I look forward to more episodes." Well, thank you very much, Ace Designs. I appreciate you and anybody who has left a 5-star review for us for taking the time to get over to iTunes and leave us a review. If you'd like to do that, I'll read it out on a future show. And for those of you who don't know, if you're into funnels, there is an event coming up in Las Vegas at the end of May called Funnel Hacking. I'll be there. If you happen to be in the neighborhood around Vegas or at the event, by all means, come up to me and say good day, and we can chat a little bit about marketing automation and sales funnels. But for now, let's get into this week's episode, the favorite sequence of our previous guest, Ben Krueger. All right, we're going to welcome back to the show Ben Krueger. We had a great episode previously. I'll link to that in the show notes, where we talked about podcasting and what a great tool it is to build your authority, build your expertise in your field, and get people into the top end of your funnel so that you can engage with them and on-sell them to other products and services. So we thought we'd get Ben back, since he's the expert on podcasting, about how we can take those podcast listeners once they're in the funnel, how we can get them using our back-end automation tools and sequences, how we can engage with them and make sure that their engaged customer is not just the silent majority, which we kind of talked about before. So welcome back, Ben Krueger from Cashflow Podcasting.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. Excited to be here. Excited to share, and always excited for round 2. So the what I want to talk about today is, if you have a podcast, that's fantastic. But I think this will also really apply for those individuals who don't, with the goal of, kind of like what you said, Barry, is a lot of folks have the problem of their email list is not very engaged. When they email to their list, not a whole lot happens. They get really low response rates or really low opens. And what we want to make sure happens is when somebody signs up to our list, those folks that are kind of primed for our message, that really like what we have to share, they get involved with you and engage with you really quickly, so that if they are a customer or client potential, we can help them kind of get to that point, and find out who is really hot for what we've got to share versus those folks that are just kind of kicking tires.
Okay. And what sequences have you been using in your business and with your clients that are getting good results in that aspect?
Yeah, so it starts with a strong call to action, as we kind of mentioned in the last episode. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that, check out in the show notes here the section we were talking about in putting together a compelling call to action for folks to opt in for. But the basic sequence is, when someone opts in for your call to action or your opt-in offer, the first email that is sent to them is, of course, the offer that itself. So let's say it was a short video or a PDF or whatever. The first message is that short PDF itself, and a little personal message from you, saying something along the lines of, hey, really excited to have you here and happy to share this. It's been getting really great results from some of the other folks that have opted in and have been using it. And I want to ask, here's where you plug in a custom question for your audience that helps folks raise their hand. So let's say you, we'll kind of go back to an example that we were using before. If you have a podcast for business coaches, or you're a business coach and you're talking about like growth strategies in your podcast episodes, and somebody opts in, and they're looking for ways to grow their business. Let's say specifically they're looking for ways to take their business from 6 figures to 7 figures, let's say.
Yeah.
When someone opts in, you give them their guide, have your little brief introduction of yourself, and then at the end of that, end with a, hey, and so I'm curious, what are the best types of clients you like to work with? Or something that's very specific that will help you understand more about who that prospect is, who their target market is, and whether or not they are a legitimate prospect for your products or services.
Right.
And so you want to ask a very simple but very personal question. So it doesn't have to, we're not trying to take a survey here. We're asking one very simple question that gets folks to respond in a way that allows folks that are really engaged to raise their hand right off the bat. So the first email essentially gives them what they asked for in the first place, introduces yourself real quick, and then asks them a very specific question that gets them, if they are interested, to hit reply and send you a quick reply. So that is the goal of that first email, and it shouldn't be a big thing. It's just kind of like hey, so what's the best target client that you like to work with, or what are the most profitable clients that you work with?
Yeah.
Shoot me a quick reply and hit reply and send me your answer. It's very straightforward, but you'd be surprised at how many actual responses you can get.
Okay, cool. So that first email, you're fulfilling the promise with the call to action. The end, you're introducing yourself again, trying to build a little bit of KLT there, and then ending with an open-ended question that really kind of elicits a response. Cool. All right.
Exactly. So, question or email number 2 is a very short email that is essentially, hey, did you get my previous email? Just wanted to make sure you checked out that guide that we shared with you. Here's that email again. And then I copy and paste the very first email right back in. Because a lot of people that opt into stuff don't even end up getting what they opted in for.
Yeah.
So this step kind of helps reassure that they, if they're still interested and they just for some reason ran out of time or were busy or whatever, they can grab that and move on. And they'll also have a second opportunity to reply to your question.
Yeah. And you're firing that back with a different subject line?
Yeah. Generally, what I'll do is I will use the same subject line, but in brackets in front of that subject line, I'll put something like a reminder or round 2, or something that
just checking or something like that.
Yeah. like quick reminder or something like that. Because people will generally recognize it and be like, oh yeah, I already got that. But if they didn't have the time to check it out before, maybe now they do.
And I'll be honest, that's worked for me before. I've opted into stuff and I've been in a hurry. I'm just going, I'll opt in on that. and then I've got to run somewhere for business, and I forget to open that email because I wasn't there in front of the computer, and then it gets buried, and then a couple of days later you get one of those kind of reminder responses. You're like, oh yeah, I did want that. That's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's why.
That's right.
Raised my hand to get a whole bunch of emails from that person.
That's right.
See, I do the same thing, guilty, and I think that's just kind of part of human nature. So let's play to that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you'll find that people are actually really thankful that you do that because, like you said, people get busy and they move on with their lives, and then when you remind them, hey, you opted in for this, just wanted to make sure you got it, they'll be like, oh, sweet, thanks. So it's not a bother. I know some folks have a preconceived notion that will be a real big hindrance, but it's not.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that works well.
Yeah. So that's first two. And generally, this is a hugely debated topic, whether or not to send emails every day or every 3 days or whatever. What I've seen works is the first email goes out immediately. Second email goes out 3 days later.
Okay.
And then the third email, and these are weekdays, so not on a weekend. If you've got an autoresponder sequence of any sort, you can select that it doesn't go out on the weekends.
Yep.
And then for the third email is generally where you take a moment to introduce yourself, especially if you fall into that category of service provider that we talked about in the last episode, where the lifetime value of a client is worth a decent amount to you. Because in order for people to get started with working with you, they need to know, like, and trust you. And they need to know what it is you have to share, who you are, what you stand for. And until they are comfortable with that, they're probably not going to work with you. So in this third email, generally what works really well, you can either do it in an email, you can have a little bit of a story about who you are, why you do what you do, and the reason that it works for clients and customers. Yeah. So this isn't a pitch. This is a, hey, so here's, I'm Sally and I help businesses go from 6 to 7 figures. I got started in corporate America back in 2000, whatever. And I realized over time that, some of the smaller clients we were working with were having real struggles doing this. And I found through working with them that there were some very simple ways to help them change their mindset and reach that much more quickly. So that's why I've put this show together. And that's why I've put, this offer together, is to help folks out there like you make that transition. Yeah. Something very similar or very simple. Yeah.
And even throw in a bit of social proof in there. So here's a customer that went from 6 to 7, blah, blah. Yeah.
Exactly. But the real goal there is, it's not a sales pitch. It's a, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I do in a nutshell. And here's why you should listen to me without being me.
Yeah.
And then that generally, I'll end that with a question as well to get folks responding, and say, hey, so now that you know a little bit more about me, I'd love to hear a little bit about you. What is and this is where I'll usually ask, what's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now when it comes to, in this instance, taking your business from 6 figures to 7 figures. So for your instance, it'll be different. But after you've kind of introduced yourself and talked a little bit about, what folks can expect, then ask folks to hit reply, send you a quick reply with, so what's your big challenge in achieving this type of a result that I help folks achieve? And, as the expert or as the business owner, you'll probably already know the 5 or 6 challenges that folks have. But again, this is an opportunity for folks that are really interested to raise their hand and step out of the crowd and open up a conversation with you.
Yeah, you're really starting a conversation. It's exactly the same as if you were in real life at a networking event or a mixer.
Exactly.
you might talk about what you do, and the next question is, well, all right, well, what do you do? What's your story? So, yeah. I think that conversational tone certainly works more effectively than the kind of pitch, sales stuff.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. It really is about opening up a two-way conversation, not just, hey, you asked for an opt-in, I sent you an opt-in, now the conversation's over. Or I'm going to just start pitching the crap out of my product.
Just going to start lobbing pitches at you every day for the next 30 days.
Yeah, exactly. So then, we talked about, if folks do have a podcast, this is kind of where the next piece is kind of where this can step in, because what I like to do for Email 4 is literally show people how they can get the most out of what you have to offer for them. And so if you have a podcast or any type of content, whether it's a blog or articles, what I find works really well is take some of the most trafficked or most popular posts, and in your fourth episode or fourth email, you can write an email about a short email about whatever that content topic is and how it's going to help them achieve a certain result, and the fact that you created this piece of content specifically for them. And if this is a podcast, you can link to the content, and then below that have, and if you really like what you're seeing, here's where you can get more advice just like this to help you take your business from 6 figures to 7 figures. You can subscribe on iTunes, you can subscribe at Stitcher, you can, get the RSS feed here. So essentially, we get people to take action in the direction that we want them to, and continue to give them the next step if they're ready to take it.
Yep, very cool. All right, to summarize that, so we've got email 1 that goes out. That's you're fulfilling your promise with the call to action, bit of an introduction to yourself, and then an open-ended question to get them to respond. Tell me about whatever. Then we're hitting them up 3 days later with a repeat of that, saying basically, hey, if you missed it, and you could even use your marketing automation to skip that step if you know that they've responded or something like that. But if they haven't responded, hit them again in 3 days with basically a repeat of the message. Hey, did you miss this? We just want to make sure you got what you were after. Then day 3, you're introducing yourself, telling them more about you and what you do, and then ending with an open-ended question to get them to talk about themselves and what they're doing, what their business is. And then that 4th day is basically, here's all my best stuff. Here's some really great articles that have helped other people. Hopefully they'll help you as well. And if you think these are great, there's going to be more coming every week. So subscribe to the podcast. Does that about sum it up?
That's the whole deal, baby. And
Beautiful.
I love it because it's so simple. Yeah. And a lot of people like to complicate this stuff, and it really isn't. So, we're, especially folks listening to this, you're looking to automate your business, not make it tougher. So let's do that.
Right. Simple as always. Simple always works best.
Definitely.
All right, Ben, I know you've got to go, so we'll wrap it up here. But thanks so much for sharing that sequence with us. And we'll have it up on the website if you want to check out the show notes. And always a pleasure to have you on. Always love to hear about what's going on in your business as well.
Yeah, really appreciate you having me on, Barry. Thank you so much. Glad I was able to share this, and hopefully this is really helpful for those listeners out there. And yeah, man, I love what you're doing with the show. Really excited about it. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come on.
All right. Thanks, man. And we'll see you again sometime soon.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks, brother. All right. I'd like to thank Ben for coming on and sharing that sequence for us. All the show notes with the links and a bit about the sequence we just discussed will be available to you over on the show notes at theactivemarketer.com/episode 19. Just want to thank you guys for stopping by and listening into the podcast. Really appreciate it. I hope you found this information useful and gave you some ideas that you can run away and implement in your business. And we'd love it if you found it useful. Please share it with your friends. Let them know about the power of marketing automation as well. And next week, we're going to start changing it up a little bit, and we're going to start talking a little bit more about sales funnels. So we're going to do a sequence of podcasts specifically designed around sales funnels and how you can use sales funnels and marketing automation together to really kind of accelerate your business. So that's coming up next week. In the meantime, you can go over to the website and download our Ninja Guide to Tagging so you can get your tagging strategy all set up before you start building your funnels. And you can find that over at theactivemarketer.com/tagging guide. So we'll see you next week. But in the meantime, I want you to go out there and design, automate, and scale your business to the next level. See you next week, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Active Marketer Podcast. You can find the show notes and all the latest marketing automation news over at theactivemarketer.com.